Mike Owens here. Today I'm joined by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who returns to action June 10th, UFC 289 versus Michel Pereira. Stephen, always a place to get your time. How are things with you today?
Doing good, dude. Doing good, man. We're here in rainy South Carolina today. But everything's good, man. What's crazy is like I'm training as if I'm fighting June 10th, but I haven't seen the contract yet. So I'm kind of waiting on the contract. I'm training as if I'm going to be fighting June 10th against Michel Pereira. I know the UFC's put it out there. So right now, just waiting on the contract, and we'll be ready to rock and roll.
So everything's official except it being official, if you like.
Exactly.
Well, maybe a better place to start is the last fight. Obviously, we talked prior to the Kevin Holland victory, fourth round TKO. I often quote this quote because I think it was so pertinent. But was that a Roy Jones, you almost have forgot type performance?
Oh man, yeah, the Roy Jones. I don't know. Did you watch his last fight?
No. What I'm saying, Stephen, is with your fight against Kevin Holland, was that a Roy Jones you almost have forgot? Like you reminding people that you're still a player in the division.
Y'all must have forgot, dude. 100%, man. I mean, obviously, fighting belalmuhammad and Gilbert, I kind of knew what their game plan was going to be. Take me down and hold me there. I didn't know they were just going to hold me there. I figured they were going to try to submit me or something, which makes it a little bit easier to get out because, they had to create space in order to change position, but they didn't. They just held me there. And I hate putting on boring fights, I want to put a show. I want to put a good show for the fans and for the UFC. And what better way to do it than with, a good dancing partner in Kevin Holland. And, we still chat to this day, actually. It's pretty cool. But yeah, man, I wanted to show the fans in the UFC that Steve Wonderboy Thompson's still here.
100%. With that being said, I know there was an unofficial arrangement between yourself and Holland that nobody would shoot for a takedown. Obviously, didn't work out in Kevin's favor that night. Do you anticipate with Michel's striking acumen, do you anticipate that he's going to want to stand with you, or do you think he tries to mix it up?
100%. I think he will. I think, and that's kind of my mindset going into every fight, especially against strikers. At some point, they know that standing with me is going to be very difficult. And they just can't figure out. But what's cool is that Michel Pereira has got some karate experience as well. He's very exciting fighter too. But I think at some point he's definitely going to try and shoot it and try to take me down. So I'm prepared for it. Prepared.
I was looking at Pereira's winning streak that he's on in anticipation. We're talking with you today, and it kind of surprised me, this 5-fight winning streak he's on. It feels like it's kind of crept up on me a little bit with the wins over Nico Price, with Chaos Williams, and obviously the big win last year over Ponzinibbio. So what have you made of Pereira's kind of turn of form from them initial defeats in the UFC to this 5-fight winning streak that he's now on?
I think it's good. And I think he's a very good fighter, very exciting fighter. Like I said, he throws a lot of things out there that people don't normally see in the gym or even in the fight. Now, do I think he's going to go out there and cut flips this fight? I don't think so. I think he's kind of, he'll throw some jumping knees and maybe run across the cage every now and then. But I think he realizes, especially when you start moving up to the top, those guys up there are really, really good. So I think he's going to try and stand and bang and try to land that big, heavy shot. But I think once it doesn't turn out in his favor, he's definitely going to be shooting. So he's a big welterweight. That's the thing. He's a big, powerful welterweight. So I got to be prepared for his strength and maybe some dirty boxing out there coming from him. But wherever the fight goes, I'm going to be ready for it. He's on a 5-fight winning streak, the 6-fight or 5 fights. I'm not sure. 5. But it's going to be a good test for me. And I think a good win over Michel Pereira. Hopefully the UFC will give me some money in the top 5 and we'll be back up there for another title shot.
I guess that was kind of my next question, because you thought Holland last, it was outside the rankings. I know that was a celebrity-like fight. Holland's obviously got a massive name as of you. And now you're fighting number 7, fighting against number 14. So you're talking there about getting the next fight potentially against the top 5 opponents. But what can you gain? What is the primary gain from fighting Michel Pereira at this moment?
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of guys up at the top 5 who want to hold on to their spot. They're holding on to it. They're not giving other people opportunities to go up there and do it. Now, I would be where I am if it wasn't for Jake Ellenberger and Johnny Henderson, Warren McDonald giving me a chance, right? Yeah. So not only that, you also get to see what these new up-and-coming guys got, what they got, and if you're still have the skills to be able to face those guys that are coming up. So I've always been the type of guy that, give those guys a shot, give them a chance, and at the same time, hopefully I'll learn something in the process. So, I'm not one of the guys that are going to sit there and just hold on to a spot in order to get a title shot, which a lot of guys, do. So I don't mind letting these guys try to prove themselves with somebody who's ranked number 7 or in the top 10. So, yeah, man, these guys want, I'm going to give them that opportunity. And like I said, I got a good win over Holland. It was like it was up for fight of the year. And with somebody like Michel Pereira, it's going to be fire for sure. So I go out there and beat him. We'll see if we get somebody in the top 5.
100%. And you mentioned a man's name there that I actually wanted to bring up, which is Rory McDonald, because I checked the record. The Rory McDonald fight was the last time you fought in Canada. So obviously making your return after a 6, if not 7-year absence. Can you reflect on your memories of the Rory McDonald fight? Because at that time, that was probably the biggest win of your career.
It definitely was, man. I mean, I had just beat the formal, welterweight champion Johnny Hendricks, beat him in the first round. And then fighting somebody like Rory was one of my biggest tests of the time because he was so good everywhere. He's got great jiu-jitsu, great stand-up, good wrestling, going up there, training like TriStar. And we're buddies, It's like, I had to fight a friend, which was cool. I mean, I scrap with my buddies every day, pretty much. So it wasn't anything different. But I loved it, man. I spent a lot of time in Montreal up there at TriStar, training with GSP and those guys at Brasa Hobby, which kind of, Canada was kind of like my home away from home. Fought in Toronto, and then fighting in Ottawa was just awesome, So I've been to Vancouver as a guest fighter, and Vancouver's beautiful, beautiful. I got to train the cast of the Green Arrow out there, which was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to go back to Vancouver and back to Canada and put on a show for the fans, man. So I'm excited for it.
100%. Now, as you mentioned there, the goal post Pereira W is to get a fight in the top 5. And you talked there about people maybe hanging onto their position, maybe strategically taking fights that will keep their position or will elevate them in the welterweight rankings. With that being said, there's been a lot of controversy around the fact that Colby Covington is going to get the next title shot in your division. I know you're not a guy who likes to talk shit or likes to be disrespectful, but just your overall thoughts on the fact that Colby Covington will be seemingly getting the next shot against Leon.
Yeah, man. I mean, Colby Covington's been out for a little while. Obviously, that had to do with Masvidal sucker punching him. But, you got guys like, belalmuhammad, who's, on a win streak and doing fairly well. He ended up beating me, who I think is more deserving of the title shot. I mean, Colby Covington, I think this is his 3rd shot at the title.
Yeah.
3rd shot at the title. And I think I don't remember his last fight.
His last fight was
Masvidal fight. Masvidal, yeah. Right? But before that, it was Usman twice. So why does he get the 3rd shot? But styles make fights, and I think it would be a good test, obviously, for Leon. Fairly same fighter as Usman. I think a little bit more cardio, a smaller opponent. But I think Usman's got it. I think if Colby's going to win, he's going to have to tire out Leon Edwards. He's going to have to tire him out. He's going to have to be really more aggressive than what Usman was. So, but the scary thing is, even under that kind of pressure and that grind, Leon can still knock you out, as we saw against Usman the first time. I think the second time Leon Edwards was in Usman's head because of that.
Yeah.
Usman has to be on point every step of the way, all 5 rounds. I'm inhaling my own saliva over here.
You take a drink and compose yourself. Obviously, your voice box needs a rest just with me asking you all these questions.
Man. No, but what gets me is like throughout the day, I'm teaching classes, and I'm yelling and I use my voice a lot. So whenever I'm not teaching classes, it's like it's time to heal up, as best it can. So it's always very raspy during the day until I get it warmed up. And right now, It's giving me some problem, man. It's giving me some problem. What the heck is going on?
Well, just a couple more questions and then I'll let you go. But you're talking there about people who maybe deserve the title shot more than you. Next week we'll see Gilbert Burns face off against Belal Muhammad, seemingly for what in most cases would be a #1 contenders fight. So having faced both of these guys and having spent 15 minutes in the cage with each of them, who do you give the advantage to in this fight?
Oh man, this is a tough one. Now, Belal Muhammad, he's very good. I think he's got the longer reach. He's got great takedown defense and is a very strong wrestler. You got to be careful with somebody like Gilbert Burns if you're going to try and wrestle somebody, because I've seen a lot of, in the past, a lot of wrestlers wrestle themselves into submissions, into triangles, into guillotines and things like that. Both very strong opponents. So I think they're going to probably cancel each other out, just like the Usman and Colby Covington. I think the fight's going to stay standing. That said, I do believe that Gilbert Burns is the faster and probably more powerful striker out of the two.
Yeah.
So if the fight does stay standing, I think Gilbert might have an edge. I mean, you saw what he did against Khamzat Chimaev, right?
Yeah.
He almost knocked him out.
Yeah.
If the fight stays standing, I think Gilbert. But if Gilbert tries to go in to try to take him down, I think Usman's takedown defense is going to be on point. And if Belal Muhammad can time up against the fence and control him there, like we've seen some guys do in the past, like GSP, I think he could win. So it literally a flip of a coin. Like whoever shows up on point that day is going to win it. So that's what's crazy about those guys at the highest level. Like anybody can win, man. Anybody.
Of course. And turning the conversation back to yourself, one of the points I wanted to make is the fact that, as you mentioned, you're more interested at this point in your career in fights that excite you. And one fight that has always hypothetically excited me for you, Stephen, is Wonderboy versus Stylebender. I can't believe that this hasn't been talked about on forums or on podcasts or the like. So I am genuinely wondering, would you ever consider a move up to middleweight to face the middleweight champ?
Man, it's funny because I'm not a big welterweight. I probably walk around 195 at my heaviest. These guys are walking around like 220. I mean, I train with Chris Weidman, former middleweight champ.
Of course. And
that dude is the strongest mamma jamma I have ever seen in my life. I've stood beside Stylebender. I mean, he's a good head taller than me. And see, brother. And crazy reach. I think it would be fun to train with him, maybe get a sparring match, but to fight that guy, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's tough. I mean, with a guy that fights with range, and he's so good, and kind of like I do, but his range is so much farther out than mine. He's got the reach out of not just his legs, but his hands. And for me to get on the inside of that will be very, very difficult. But I would love to spar with him. We gotta like film that or something and put that out there. But I've seen a lot of people ask me that, like, Wonderboy versus Stylebender, Wonderboy versus Stylebender. I'm like, y'all crazy. I don't want to fight that guy. Are you kidding me?
No,
that would be fun though.
I do appreciate the honesty with that answer, and if there is that sparring match does ever occur, I do expect a videotape to be sent to me since I came up with the idea. But nevertheless, last one question from me, Stephen. Last one from me. If I said to you June the 10th on Sunday morning after UFC 289, the newspapers and the headlines are saying Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, masterful performance. What does that mean to you?
Man, you know what? Every time I visualize a fight, I don't look for the knockout. I just let it happen. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I always visualize my hand being raised at the end. But my goal is to prepare for the hardest fight, the hardest 3 5-minute round fight I can possibly prepare for. And even if it's a 3-round fight, I still train 5-5s. I still do championship rounds. If I can go as hard as I can for 5 5-minute rounds and 3 fights, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be more than ready to go. But I just visualize my hand being raised, my friend.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for the time again, Stephen. It's always a pleasure to catch up.
Pleasure's all mine, brother.
Then I wish you the best for June 10th.
Thank you, Mike. You have a good one, buddy.